Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another edition of PE Forum. Today, we have the pleasure of welcoming Eric Sarasin for an exclusive fireside chat. Following a successful banking career, where Eric developed the formerly family-owned bank into one of the leading private banks in Switzerland, which also culminated in his role as head of private banking and deputy CEO of the group. Today, Eric is an active investor and philanthropist. He manages his own family office, White Sail Consulting, out of Switzerland. Eric is also a member of the board of several private companies and investment firms, and he chairs Tiger 21 Switzerland. During his career, Eric has also held many public, non-private, and cultural leadership roles. And so today we'll have the pleasure of discussing all these topics with him. Eric, thank you for taking the time and joining us today.
It's my pleasure.
So, Eric, let's jump right into it. We're in the current state today. You're in the heart of, through your positions of venture capital innovation, and so we're noticing an environment that's quite tough, quite difficult. We have high interest rates, and so I wanted to see with you, where do you see today the challenges and the opportunities, especially when it comes to innovation and venture capital in this high high interest rate environment?
Well, I start with the opportunities. I think there are tremendous opportunities. I think generally, and they are very good. I think the opportunities are better than 2023, which was a very difficult year. Not to say that this year is not difficult, but I think, and now come to the challenges. The challenges this year in the investment environment look a bit better, especially, anticipation. Always the market anticipates 6 months. And in the next 6 to 9 months, I can imagine that we will have interest rates cuts. And in preparation for that, I think we will see capital allocation to the environment of venture and private equity much more. And I think there we will see a bit of an improvement, even a revival of the theme. And innovation is at the forefront. I don't have to tell you that. This is in everybody's mind. And nevertheless, I think innovation needs to be very selectively chosen if you go into this area.
And so you've mentioned that we're looking at better conditions during this 2024. Until now, how this environment has impacted valuations for the various sectors, and how have investors adapted to this new paradigm, I would say?
Yeah, well, I think, if you look at the macroeconomic side, worldwide growth, economic growth will be rather low, but there are always surprises, as you know. We've seen surprises before. Thinking positive, I think we will see positive surprises in the economic development. Of course, singling out the geopolitical situation we had right now, this is the very unknown factor. I think China will do better than we expect. I think also the US, Europe is lagging, and under this economic backdrop, I think the valuations will still remain high generally. But I think if you are a clever investor and you find companies in the technology innovation sector, that you will be able to pick some very, not cheap, but very interesting companies at reasonable valuations. I think there we have a tremendous opportunity, coming back to your question before, to really come into this sector at reasonable valuations, at the same time picking. You have to be very careful in picking the right companies, and in which country also you're active.
So you mentioned earlier that there are opportunities, but you have to be, I'd say, selective. And so, are there particular sectors within the VC and innovation domain that you find particularly interesting today?
Well, everybody's mind, and in the media, you hear AI. Of course, AI is predominant right now. I think it is a bit of a hype. Nevertheless, I think AI is a very large theme. Can be automation. It can be in telecommunications. It can be everywhere. So, I mean, you have to dissect the AI sector very much. On the other hand, I think automation will take more and more charge, and within that, the blockchain technology. I think the blockchain technology is already there in many companies, but it will have even a stronger impact going forward. And then I think, of course, other sectors like take 3D printing, take the Internet of Things, which continue to be a theme, and so on. I think in that area, and again, what I said before, you have to be extremely, you have to be knowledgeable. And I would suggest or advise people to work with knowledgeable companies or consultants to find the right investment.
Talking about this innovation, which is, as you mentioned, a vast domain, could you tell us more about the mission that you foresee for the Singularity Group, and what are the aims of this organization?
Yes, the Singularity Group was founded 5 years ago. Basically, a couple of people who came out of the Singularity University and thought that the theme or the concept of singularity, again, that the artificial intelligence or robots will reach human intelligence very soon. By 2040, it goes faster and faster. And based on that, we started, and I'm the chairman there, the Singularity Index first. The NASDAQ index is the Singularity NASDAQ index is ours. And then, because it was not investable, we started the fund. Mm-hmm. Our flagship fund is long only global all sector equity fund, which was daily liquidity, everything. It's a Luxembourg fund. And we basically say that we capture the exponential innovation of companies globally. Companies from conventional sectors and industries are weighted according to the Singularity Score, which we also created, a metric that measures companies' degree of applied innovation, for example. So we have several sectors that we look at. We're looking at, as I mentioned, 3D, artificial intelligence, big data, then also the whole area of new energy, going into the environment, robotics, and applied experienced reality. These are some of the sectors we cover in our fund, and we have seen over the past 5 years, of course, with 2022 being a very difficult year, but over the scope of the whole period, we have had, I have to say, a very satisfying or very good development. And we're also rated by Morningstar, so we are expanding, growing, and the goal would be also to launch a fund because it's a Luxembourg fund, to launch a fund in the United States.
And so, if you take this innovation and VC that is quite, as we all know, higher risk investment pieces, how do you balance as an investor in general? How within your entire portfolio, how do you balance, seizing these opportunities that innovation VC can bring to you with the rest of preserving your wealth or increasing it? How would you, with your experience, how would you say what should be the approach to that?
Yeah, good question. Having been a banker for 30 years, covering and advising clients on diversification. If I look back when we started, when the internet started, everybody was going, "Oh my God, don't touch, very risky." Today we know it's part of our everyday life, and some missed the boat. That's clear. But looking at today, the principles are still, in my opinion, still the same, balancing risk and return, meaning that you ought to be diversified. You ought to know your risk. I mean, that's that they teach you in every business school, what is risk and how you measure risk. But I think and then putting that against the opportunities that are out there today. I would have, if you are a normal conservative investor, or even an institutional investor, I think the core should still be fairly good yielding returns, and then you have a portion of your asset allocation which is dedicated to private equity / venture capital, and within there, I think you should have an allocation, a strong allocation in what we talked about before, innovation. I think not missing the boat on that would be a mistake. But again, saying that you have a balance, and you if you should lose money, that it doesn't affect your whole portfolio.
So thank you very much. So you've mentioned that we are now in a global scene, and you look at the entire globe, not just at one region. I was you wrote a very interesting piece around what is happening in the Gulf region. So I'd love to to dig in a little bit more about that. And we see that the Gulf region has changed, and they're looking to develop their own investment ecosystem. And so as an international banker, investor, how do you see this transformation? And if you could share your insight into how do you see this approach that they have towards whether it's inbound or outbound investments?
Yeah, thank you. I think the whole region of the Middle East, which stretches beyond the Middle East, of course, has a history of civilization before many thousand years ago, which was way ahead of us in the West, if you look at the history. And I think now, it's realized. I think again, many of the Middle Eastern countries, if you look at the UAE, if you look at Saudi Arabia and other countries, those two being the lead, they realized early on that fossil energy, oil and gas, are limited, and that you need to diversify your economies. Otherwise, once in the future this source becomes scarce, you will have a problem. And so I think what the Gulf Cooperation Council has been discussing and is discussing is how can this region gain in importance, both, I think, and I'm not a politician, but both geopolitically and economically. Dubai, as a visionary, did the beginning. I was there in 2000 when there was nothing. I don't have to tell you how it is today. And the attraction for the region. Saudi Arabia, with the Vision 2030, is going not in the same direction, but in a much more powerful. Saudi Arabia is much larger than the UAE, of course, and financial resources are much higher. And under the chairmanship of Her Majesty bin Salman, I think the Saudi Arabia has this vision to become a leader in the region, and also taking a very important role in the peace process in this region. I think if we seek peace in this region, I think it will be economically highly beneficial to the whole region, and this region playing a major role in the world.
Absolutely. You've I think you've summarized well the challenges and the opportunities that we're seeing in the region. One of the specific themes that has been moving forward is, especially in the Gulf region versus the broader Middle East, has been to look to attract more family offices, directly come and install and put the proper ecosystem or environment for them to establish there. In your views, what would be the key factors that could contribute for, whether Abu Dhabi or Dubai or Riyadh, to attract family offices to anchor themselves in the region? We've seen some of them already do that, those who have links with the Middle East, but how could they do that in a much broader and systematic way, I would say?
Yeah, you have what they're doing already is attracting companies to come in the Middle East, to develop a presence there as an economic hub with an ecosystem of over 3 billion people in the whole environment, looking at India as well. So that's number one. Family offices, I think, are being created more and more. I mean, talking about Switzerland, we have already 450 family offices in a small country like Switzerland, and growing. And it's going to grow in the Middle East too, with with wealthy families using banks for as a commodity, but deciding themselves, seeing that independently operating and deciding on their investment in the future with top professionals in their group is a major point that family offices can sustain. And I think not just families from the Middle East finding a hub in the UAE or in Saudi Arabia, but also benefiting from the dynamics that we have in this region. And I think this could be even branches of family offices from Europe, even from the United States, who say, well, I'd like to be there, I'd like to have an office there to benefit, to contribute to the development in this area.
And so if we continue on your line of thought, you mentioned that in the portfolio, you can allocate to private equity and venture capital. In your view, how can they empower also local managers? How can they do to have a strong and sustainable local PEVC ecosystem? In your view, what would be the missing link today, or what could be the goals in the future?
I think the major point is education. I think if you establish and you educate the young and the old in the area of what you just said, alternative investments by and large, then I think educating will give them the opportunity to develop it there. I think there are Western institutions, universities that have that know-how and that have already established a presence, especially in Dubai, but could come to other countries in the area and offer this program of education in this area. I think that is one missing link, that people don't have to people from the region don't have to go to the United States or to Europe to get educated on that, but also to be there in their places. On the other hand, I think banks and venture capital companies and so on should benefit from or seize the opportunity to establish presence there and have work together. That's the link, maybe also work together with the locals to see the opportunities, not just within, but also outside.
Globally. So you've given me, we're talking about education, you've given me the perfect bridge to move to our third and last chapter in our conversation, which is philanthropy. And so you're very well known for, for giving back a lot to no, it's true, the society and carrying philanthropic efforts. If you could share, your personal insights, how did you approach your philanthropic mission, and also, how do you see the role of philanthropy in today's world for the business community?
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yes, I've been always active in philanthropy. In our original family bank, we always said 20-25% of our time is dedicated to philanthropy, and we always did it. So I was educated like that. It was always the question of giving something back, giving back not just money, but also your know-how, your expertise. So that's the outset. And then I think philanthropic activities should be also, like any investment, well structured. You have to know what you want to achieve. I think the major theme today is, of course, saving our planet, is climate change, the whole environmental question, which personally I have been tackling for many years, and it's a huge task. And as you know, we are it's 12:05 in that relation, in that theme. So we need to do something there. So I would urge everybody, if you do philanthropic, is doing it for the client, for the planet, something for the planet, something for social well-being, because I believe very strongly if we have a social balance in many countries, social balance between the gap between the rich and the poor is getting bigger. To balance that out will give stability in every country, political stability and wealth. And if you see what happened in the past, let's say 20-30 years, if you look really at the facts, the facts are that the world has become actually a better place. Many people don't want to know that or don't want to hear about that, and the media is not contributing to that fact. But continuing on that path, I think the philanthropy is a great means of sovereign funds, but also private family offices to contribute something, and that you need to know exactly what you want to achieve. And of course, it's not for profit, so you need to know with what kind of organizations you work with, because there's also there are differences, there are big differences there too.
I join you in saying that indeed the world is much better off today in terms of poverty, health, and media. I mean, if I put the media cap, unfortunately, we usually tend to want to have sensational stories, but it's true that the overall state of the world is better. Geopolitically, we're seeing some kind of uptick now, but nevertheless, it's true that on a citizen basis, globally, Africa, Asia, people are living better. And so I'd like to jump on that and what you said about the Gulf region. How should the Gulf region approach this philanthropic effort? What role should it play within the broader investment narrative? And is there ways to institutionalize it, with global partnership between, the Gulf region and European philanthropic efforts?
Yeah, let me go back just quickly on philanthropic generally, but especially what's happening right now in the world. And we should not deny that is here. We have, apart from the big conflicts we have right now, the two big conflicts, we have roughly about 40 wars going on in this world. And you see also that I think the annual spending in armaments is at $2.2 trillion, which is enormous, absolutely enormous. If we would just imagine that we would be living in a more peaceful world and we would spend 1 to 5% of this money for philanthropic causes, for the environment and so on, it would have a huge impact. But again, it's not up to me to judge that.
Yeah.
And also about the facts, I just want to say one more thing. There was a book written by Professor Hans Rosling, Swedish professor, called Factfulness. It's been a few years that he published that, but this book is, when you read it, it gives you the facts of what happened in the last couple of decades in this planet and what was really improved, and not just hearsay. So this for that. So coming back to your question, I think that the Middle East, it's a difficult question because I think I don't know how philanthropy has been developed. But if I look at Dubai, and I'm there regularly, there are big efforts in the philanthropic area, not just by the government, but also by privates and by companies for the region. And if you see the development in Saudi Arabia with the green effort, if you call that philanthropy, of course it's for profit still, but it goes into that direction.
Absolutely.
I think I would continue in that area. And of course, I think it's a very good point of yours that to say that cooperation between big philanthropic companies and the efforts that are being pursued in the Middle East could be a great cooperation. If you think of the very large foundations and philanthropic organizations like the big Bill Gates Foundation, which basically erased some of the illnesses on this planet with their effort, they couldn't do it without cooperation. So I think that cooperation is key. And I'm sure, again, here, European philanthropic organizations need to possibly be educated on what is going on in the GCC, and that they can understand what the goal is in the mission going forward in terms of philanthropic and social justice. The whole theme. There's many themes in this area which should be tackled.
Eric, thank you very much for your time. We could go on for hours, but I know that you have more important things to attend to. It was a very interesting and insightful conversation, and especially to look at the bridge between, Europe, US, and the Gulf region. And I'm sure that there will be much more to discuss and to look into in the coming future. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. It was a pleasure. Thank you very much.